Hi, I'm Leanne Young. Let's celebrate our history and cultural heritage. This is Our Vancouver. Coming up, a hard day at work slips through her fingers. And tips from a local mixer and shaker. But first, the music of a lifetime. That was the debut of new music from renowned composer and flautist in Vancouver. The piece is called Autumn Harvest. It was recently performed at the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Classical Chinese Garden in Chinatown in celebration of Asian Heritage Month. And now we have the composer of the piece with us, Yong Sun, or Shen Yong in Chinese. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, we heard about that amazing performance that you gave recently in Chinatown. There was so much joy emanating from that performance. What was it like for you?
Well, I was very excited. It's nice to be back to play with my partners. They get the good feelings on the stage.
Yeah, because you haven't performed in nearly 20 years,
Something
right?
around
Yes. So what happened? Can you give us a little story of
Well,
why
I
that
had
happened?
two accidents. The first one was in year 2002, and that one was hit really hard from behind. So I
a car accident.
Yes,
Yeah.
car accident. I didn't realize that was that serious, but a year later I had a vertigo problem. Then just in year 2005, I get hit again. This time, although it didn't hit that hard, but my physical, conditions completely changed. And then, I lost my hearing on the right side, and I had a neck problem, all the issues, and the vertigo just come out of control. I throw up all the time, and I was completely disabled. So I could not. I was a school teacher, and I had to quit my job. On disability, and could not perform at all. I could not bring my instrument on my hand, because if I play, my tinnitus or tinnitus like crazy, and I will feel dizzy and my neck hurt, all kind of thing.
Right, but music has been such a part of your life, your whole life, and we're seeing these wonderful photos of your childhood. Can you take us back? How did you start playing music?
Well, my mom is a very good musician. He's the first.
There she is. We can see her in the pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, she's first class pianist in China. She works for the National Opera, and she works there for all her career. And but I didn't plan to be a musician. And those days, in China, everybody busy. So during Cultural Revolution, when I was 13, there was no school, and it was a mess. So I just picked up the bamboo flute. And my brother taught me, to fingering. So I just learned all myself pretty much.
Wow.
And I joined those days. The kids get together to play music and dance together, had some entertainment. The idea is to promote the revolution, promote the cultural revolution, promote Chairman Mao's leader, the party, or whatever. Everybody joined it to play, so we had some entertainment. That's how I started with the bamboo flute. When I was 18, I was borrowed to the local, professional art group. So I played there, and even I soloed on the stage. So, and I thought, why not? I learned something on music. So I wrote a letter to my mother, and said, why not? I learned something since I lost my old education. I had elementary school education. My mother said, okay, I want to study oboe. But in China, whole China, no oboe instrument was available. And made by plastic, everything is no wood oboe available. So my mother told me, I know a best flutist. If you can study with him, And I said, why not? Just study flute first. So when I was 19, I went back to see my mother, and she introduced me to my former teacher. He was a gold medalist internationally, the best player in China. So he was sympathetic. I studied with him. So 19.
Wow. And so how did you end up in Boston?
Well, in China it was a revolution, because when I auditioned for the how can I translate the Central Symphony, National Symphony, I auditioned in, and they thought my politically family background not good enough, so I was kicked out. Then later, so I became before I left China, I became a mechanical drawing teacher. I run the lathe. I used to be a lathe runner, a worker. I completely gave up my flute. I thought that, no career anyway. So, but at the age of 30, so one of my classmates, he went to the United States. He told me it's possible if you go to the United States to study. So I had no background. I didn't have high school, practically. So I picked up my instrument, so the flute again, and made a cassette recording, applied for everywhere. And finally in Boston Conservatory, my teacher took me. I was very basic, but my teacher thought I had good feelings, so he took me. So I went to the Boston Conservatory. So I studied very hard there, and at the fourth year I participated the Papa Chakras competition. In my third year I participated too. I didn't get anything, but fourth year I got second place. Wow. I get it. And then UBC, I applied for UBC. UBC was impressed, so offered me a fellowship. So I came to Canada.
And what has music meant to you in your life? Because, you talked about that incredible journey, and you've had some tough times, particularly during the Cultural Revolution in China. What has music meant to you?
It means, well, a lot. First of all, entertainment that made me happy. Second, I didn't have to do so much hard physical work, right? Because I joined to the group, I perform. When you perform, you have to give me some time to perform, right? We have to practice. So I avoid some very heavy physical work. That's part of it. And the bamboo flute, especially, when I'm doing, learning the regular flute, bamboo flute always gave me, actual performance.
When is your next performance?
I think it's going to be end of this month. I think it's the 31st. I think it's May 31st for the composer Zhang Jin organized. I cannot remember exactly how it's for.
Okay, we're going to have to Google that. We think it's at the end of the month, but until then, will you tie us over and will you perform one of your beautiful compositions on your bamboo flute for us today?
I think I'm going to play a theme. I wrote a song.
Okay.
I wrote a song, and only part of it. It's a song. I enjoy playing on the flute.
Okay, we'll let you take it away, please. Stunning. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us.
一天。
I'm Josh, this is Dan, and Doc. We're in Stanley Park, and this is our Vancouver.
While May is Asian Heritage Month, we are celebrating the art and culture that shapes our lives. At Emily Carr University, the works of more than 350 graduating art students are on display. Among them are 2 Asian Canadian artists showcasing their work inspired by their cultural heritage. Let's take a look.
So this project is an investigation in multisensory design, where I explore how I can communicate memory through different sensories, and with the context that I'm working with is memories of Hong Kong. I've been collecting memories from myself, my family, and my friends. In this particular installation, you see the red, white, blue bag, which is very commonly used in Hong Kong, used to like travel and carry goods to different places, moving, and things like that. One of the big things that reminds me of when I think about Hong Kong is the denseness and the idea of organized complexity. And with this pattern itself, it's already so complicated and dense, and so I thought it just makes sense to weave the very dense city with this very dense pattern.
Linis in Filipino and in English it's called cleaning is something that I've been exploring. It's an identity that Filipinos have taken as a cleaning service, and so I've trying to investigate this word cleaning and how much of this stereotype here in Vancouver or in Canada in general of how this, third world countries have been taken on here in Canada. We treat these people or this cleaning industry as a low service, but yet, it has benefits on the other end that it needs to be brought up more than just being a low service. Changing the narrative and putting them as an artwork is something that a way for me investigate that, and within the context of seeing it as an artwork and people, this utilitarian object using just dragging, pushing, and pulling carts within the cleanings is something that you don't see in a museum or something that you don't see as an artwork or an art piece.
In a South Vancouver neighborhood, the chances of running into or really walking by a legend are pretty high. His name is Delvinder Tour. He's 69 years old and he walks his path alone.
My name is Delvinder Singh Toor. I'm a family physician here in Vancouver. I'm clinical associate professor of medicine in UBC. And I every day come in this park to have my run, I would say, without fail. I have been doing for the last 30 years. I try not to miss whether it's sunshine or snow. If you count the days when I have missed maybe 15 or 16, only the days when I was sick or I was traveling. It takes me 1 hour 40 minutes to do 11 laps every day, and 1 lap is 1 kilometer. I love the people around, the dogs, they know me. The one over there, Hannah, is a good friend of mine.
Here, Hannah, sit. Good girl. My name's Lee Iverson. We've lived across the street for about 15 years now and known Dr. Tour for, I think, 10 of that. For many years, it was with his dog, right? So he had a big black lab, and initially the lab would run with him, and then it would walk with him, and then it would stop and wait for him, and then no more. But we got Hannah about 7 years ago, and as a puppy we just were out walking in the morning and met the doctor, and he was just there all the time. Bread makes good friends, so especially with dogs. It's just part of the park. Right? He's just part of what this place is.
Can you see this the track? So I have made this track by walking this, and I love this place. See, this is an addiction. I can't go to my office without having this, exercise. These laps, that's the secret of my good health, I would say.
So many of you take amazing photographs of our beautiful province. We always feature a few each week, and once again, the photos were so good it was difficult to choose just one. First, it's starting to look a lot like humpback whale season here on the south coast. This one captured by Frank Moyle off the southeast tip of Galiano Island last weekend. And those clouds over Clinton never looked better. Thanks to Amanda Nelson for this one. And finally, Greg really sent us this striking image, pardon the pun. He says he captured about 17 lightning strikes over Osoyoos earlier this month. Really beautiful. Thank you, Greg. Send us more. You can email them to bcphotos@cbc.ca. That's bcphotos@cbc.ca. Coming up, Johanna Wagstaff looks at the impact of solar cycles on jellyfish populations.
Long considered a nuisance and a symbol of collapsing ecosystems, jellyfish can sometimes get a bad rap, especially if you've ever been stung by one. But a new study proves these gelatinous sea creatures actually play a valuable role in ocean ecosystems, and an even more valuable role in carbon storage, much more than scientists previously thought. In fact, at any given moment, about 510 million metric tons of carbon are stored away in these creatures, a number roughly equivalent to Canada's total carbon dioxide emissions in 2018. Okay, so first of all, jellyfish store carbon? Well, you're not alone if that concept sounds new to you. I spoke to Eugenie Jacobson, a biological oceanographer from UBC, about this process.
They use zooplankton as a food source, and zooplankton use phytoplankton as a food source. So when phytoplankton take up that carbon dioxide and convert it to carbohydrates that are used for energy, the zooplankton get that organic carbon, the jellyfish get that organic carbon. So it's kind of like a weird domino effect. And then the jellyfish sink to the bottom of the sea floor. And once it gets into the sediment, it can be locked in there for millions of years, which is a really efficient way of storing carbon.
The scientists in this study used the Jellyfish Database Initiative, an open source data set that includes information about jellyfish distribution, population fluctuations, and physiology to estimate total jellyfish biomass around the globe. Properly taken into account, jelly-based carbon sources could increase our estimates of the efficiency of the ocean's biological carbon pump.
So this is a simplistic version of the biological pump, but the most important part is understanding that jellyfish sink quickly. So that's what really helps in terms of the carbon export, and that's what the study is saying, that they've underestimated the role of jellyfish in that way, and how much they actually help, draw down that carbon from our atmosphere and then onto the seafloor.
And that'll be important in understanding not only how jellyfish will be affected by climate change, but in turn how they will influence the transfer of carbon into the world's oceans from the atmosphere. So yes, jellyfish are very valuable. And now you're Science Smart. If you have a science question on your mind, send me a tweet and I'll try to get it answered.
Hi, I'm Harvey at Second Beach in Stanley Park, and this is our Vancouver.
Thanks, Johanna. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Leanne Young. Our next guest says there are just 5 bottles to rule them all. That is, if you want to lord over your next cocktail party. She's a co-founder of Ampersand Distilling Company and an author who's just launched a new book. So welcome, Jessica Schacht. She's here to show us how to set up the perfect at-home cocktail bar. So Jessica, thanks for flying over to Vancouver to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, okay, Lord of the Rings references aside, let's talk about you're a mom, you're running a distillery. How are you finding time to write this beautiful book?
Well, you got to have cocktail hour somehow, right? So this way you'll be prepared and ready to go when that time comes.
Amazing. Okay, and your inspiration for the book, what was it?
Yeah, so with Ampersand, we've always loved classic cocktails. And as I sort of was looking at researching recipes, things to do with the gin over the years, I noticed I kept reaching for a few of the same bottles. And that was sort of the impetus behind the 5-bottle bar.
Okay, and tell me, you've brought the 5 bottles here. What are the 5 bottles you feel like every one of us needs to have in our home if you drink?
Yes. Okay, so the 5 bottles are, we have, this is going to come as a little bit of a surprise, I think, for most people, but dry vermouth.
Okay.
Sweet vermouth. Gin.
Dry and sweet, okay, all right.
And whiskey, and that could be rye or bourbon, and an Amaro, specifically Campari, is what's most commonly used.
Okay, all right, and you've brought your gear here. We're gonna make a couple of cocktails. What are you gonna make for us first?
Yeah, so I've already set up. A lot of people, I think these days, are a fan of the Negroni. In the book, we'll teach you how to do some riffs on classic cocktails like that. So this is actually a Boulevardier that I've already made, and it has whiskey, sweet vermouth, and Campari in it, a little garnish with an orange twist. So yeah, riff on a classic, or the Boulevardier is a classic.
Yes.
Next,
how's it different from a Negroni?
So instead of gin, you're using whiskey.
Okay, very nice. This is lovely.
And then next up, we're gonna make Sweet Dream, which is an original cocktail that I created for Ampersand. And it uses our gin, of course. So we're gonna start with that.
And this is an award-winning gin.
It is.
You're giggling and you're being shy about it, but tell us about this amazing gin that you guys have come up with.
This is our gin from Ampersand Distilling Company. It's our flagship spirit. My husband Jeremy and I created the recipe, and the barometer was that it had to make as good of a Negroni as it did a martini. So our take on a classic profile: juniper forward, coriander, there's fresh lemon peel in there, and a little bit of spice from cardamom and grains of paradise. Yeah, go ahead.
Lovely.
And then we have some earthier botanicals to round it out. And it makes a great vehicle for lots of cocktails, in this case, the Sweet Dream.
Right.
So I'm gonna take 1.5 ounces of gin.
You guys have won lots of awards for this gin.
Yeah, this most recently won Canada's Best Classic Gin, as well as Best in Class at the Canadian Artisan Spirits Competition.
Very cool, congratulations.
Yeah. I have some simple syrup. So in the book, there's recipes for lots of different simple syrups.
Just like a sugar water kind
exactly.
of. Yeah,
and one way that you can take them to the next level is by infusing them. So this is infused. In the book, the recipe is for lavender. This is actually lilac that I just happen to have in my yard.
Perfect,
So
it's a lilac season.
I'm gonna use 3/4 ounce of simple syrup there.
Beautiful.
And then we have 1/2 ounce of lemon juice going in there.
Okay.
And really important, you want to add ice to shake cocktails. So I've got ice in there. This is called a French shaker. It's my favorite kind of shaker.
This is a different shape, yeah.
Yeah, and I find it the easiest. So, and then we're going to give it a good shake.
Love that.
And when
so
you're
much
shaking,
fun.
when you're shaking cocktails, you just want to get it nice and frosty. One good way to know if you want to shake versus stir a cocktail is if it has citrus juice in it. So that's a good way to.
That's a great tip. So
to be able
when
to
do you
tell.
actually shake? When do you, with citrus, you shake?
Yes.
Okay.
With citrus, you shake, and then for this, it actually goes in a rocks glass.
Right.
So I'm just going to pour that out. Beautiful color from the simple syrup there.
It's so lovely. You can quite tell that. Yeah, very nice in the glass.
And we'll give it a little lemon twist just to.
Gorgeous.
Just to be
All
a
right.
little fancy.
Matches my jacket. And take a sip. That means
Color coordinated.
lovely. Can really get the lilac out of that, and of course your lovely gin there.
Yeah, and simple syrups are a great way, even if you're, making drinks that don't have alcohol
I
in them.
love the citrus. It keeps it so bright. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Beautiful. Sweet Dream.
The
indeed.
Sweet Dream. Yeah.
Okay, and you've got some non-alcoholic options as well in the book.
Yeah, I do. There's a whole chapter on zero proof and low proof as well. And that actually, the low proof, a lot of people don't think about vermouth as a real main ingredient that you can use. But the next cocktail that I'll show you, the Addington, uses vermouth as its main ingredient, and to great effect, if I do say so myself.
Okay, we'll have to try it and see, but I'm going to believe you in the meantime.
So this cocktail, very easy to make. It's equal parts. I love an equal parts recipe. 1 in 1 sweet and dry vermouth. And I find that this one is really like, I don't really know what I'm gonna make. Make an Addington.
Okay, an Addington.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to try that. So tell us a little bit about your distillery.
So it's on a 5-acre organic vegetable farm in the Cowichan Valley. It'll be our 10th anniversary next year.
Oh, wow.
We're a craft distillery. We make and ferment and distill our own alcohol from scratch using BC raw agricultural goods, in our case, organic wheat. We have our gin as our flagship spirit. We also make a vodka that won World's Best Varietal Vodka back in 2020.
Cool.
And we do the dry vermouth in collaboration with Rath Gen Cellars, and we do a seasonal product called Nocino, which is an Italian bittersweet walnut liqueur that comes out around the holidays.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So this drink is a stir?
This is a stir. No citrus.
No citrus.
You got it.
Yes,
See?
listening.
You learn fast. We'll put some ice in there, and then we're going to use our bar spoon, and we're going to stir. And I know that getting into cocktails and cocktail making can be a little intimidating for some people. If you don't have a bar spoon, I outline a couple and other bar tools, some substitutions you can make. A butter knife makes a really good substitute if you don't have one.
done that myself.
So we've got that.
And how long do you tend to stir that for?
Usually just until you see the frost sort of coming up on the outside of the glass.
Okay,
so it gets
we're
nice and
definitely
frosty.
seeing it rise. There we go.
And then we've got that.
There we go.
We'll take our strainer again, and this is going to go just in our cocktail glass.
Sometimes the one determinant for me whether I drink a cocktail or not. I'm like, I'm feeling fancy. There we go. All right, this is the Addington.
Sorry, I need a garnish.
I need a garnish.
I need a garnish. We'll do a little orange twist there.
I thought the glass was good enough for me. But little orange oils.
A little zhuzh it up.
Lovely. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So different.
I think a lot of people are
Very herbaceous.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Almost kind of like medicinal, but yeah.
And that's from the vermouth. So vermouth is a fortified wine, and it's fortified with many different herbs and spices, particularly wormwood. But yeah, you get all of those different flavors that go into that, and it makes for a really sort of nuanced cocktail that's really easy to make.
Yes, indeed. You showed us here in like 30 seconds. Okay, so where can we pick up some of your bottles and your book?
Yeah, so our spirits are available in private liquor stores all across the province, and you'll also see it behind the bar, hopefully at many of your favorite restaurants. And the book is available wherever books are sold. You can find out more about it from ampersanddistilling.com, and as well as independent bookstores and the big ones as well. So yeah, wherever books are sold.
All right, well, thank you for coming in, spicing up our morning, Jessica. So lovely to have you today. I'm gonna cheers.
Cheers.
You cheers me? I'm sorry,
Cheers.
but I drank all of these already.
Oh, good. It's all good. Have a good one.
I've woken up in a hotel room. My worries as big as the moon. Having no idea what or where I am.
If you want to go see some live music, Swedish folk duo First Aid Kit plays Stanley Park's Malcolm Bowl on May 23rd. And singer-songwriter from Winnipeg, Begonia, belts out some tunes at Vancouver's Fox Cabaret, also May 23rd.
Hey, this is Grant Lawrence here from CBC Music with a great story that involves a 13-year-old Canadian song, a Nashville country star, one of the biggest DJs in the world, and actors Dove Cameron and Sean Penn. So let me explain. It all starts here in Canada with the band Bedouin Soundclash, who are arguably most famous for this #1 hit.
When the night feels my soul, I'll be home. I'll be home.
From 2004, that's Bedouin Soundclash with their breakout international hit, When the Night Feels My Song, that endures to this day. Now, in 2010, Bedouin Soundclash released an album called Light the Horizon, which featured another hit that has, over the years, taken on a life of its own.
So are we brutal hearts? Are we brutal hearts that break the night in two? 'Cause I just want this night with you. But I don't
That's Bedouin Soundclash with their song Brutal Hearts, featuring that scorching duet with lead singer Jay Malinowski and Quebec star Cour de Pirate. That is from 2010. Okay, so skip ahead to this year, and there is now an incredible cover of that song that has emerged, layered with all sorts of star power. The story goes that superstar electro DJ Diplo wanted to collaborate with Grammy-winning outlaw country artist Sturgill Simpson. Apparently, Sturgill heard Brutal Hearts by Bedouin Soundclash playing in a bar and said, hey, that's the song. They brought in actor-singer Dove Cameron to take the female lead, and when it came to shoot the video, Diplo brought in his movie star pal, Sean Penn, to play the male lead. Check this out. Crazy. They renamed the song Use Me, but that is most definitely a cover of the Bedouin Soundclash song Brutal Hearts, done up Hollywood style by Diplo, Dove Cameron, Sean Penn, and Sturgill Simpson, who performs under the name of Johnny Blue Skies on that track. And that star-studded version of Brutal Hearts is going gangbusters, streaming into the millions, and it all came as a very pleasant superstar surprise to Bedouin Soundclash, who found out about this whole cover thing earlier this year. Meanwhile, Bedouin Soundclash can be currently seen on tour in the States right now with the Interrupters and Frank Turner. Either version of Brutal Hearts by Bedouin Soundclash or Diplo is the song that you need to add to your best ever duets playlist, and now you have the story to go along with it. I'm Grant Lawrence from CBC Music. I'll check in with you again soon.
Coming up, a snake in hand is worth two in the wild. Stay with us. Welcome back to Our Vancouver. I'm Leanne Young. Well, they aren't easy to find. They're small and live underground, and naturalists say it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Come with us on the search for the sharp-tailed snake in this last installment of our series, The Wild Work of Conservationists.
My name is Elena Jean, and I'm a documentary filmmaker. And today we're going to be looking for a rare species of snake on Vancouver Island. We're going to be meeting up with wildlife biologist and conservationist Rebecca Golat. Rebecca's specialty is in herpetology, which is the study of reptiles, which I'm particularly excited about because I love reptiles, but I'm no expert. The little I do know about these snakes is that they're called sharp-tailed snakes, and that finding these sharp-tailed snakes isn't going to be easy.
My name is Rebecca Golat, and I work as a wildlife biologist. I work in mostly herpetology, so reptiles and amphibians, and I dabble in ornithology and sometimes entomology as well, which is birds and insects. All the ologies. Snake kit is ready to go. We have artificial cover objects set up, And those are like what attract the snakes. You would never really be able to find one without that. They're pretty hard to find. They're just emerging out of hibernation, so they're gonna go straight to those ACOs, and they're gonna be warming up as much as they can.
So what is this ecosystem that we're in right now?
This is a Garry Oak meadow ecosystem, and it's one of the rarest ecosystems in Canada. And we have only about 10% of it, of like natural Garry Oak meadow left. It's a perfect habitat for them.
Are sharp-tailed snakes found throughout Canada elsewhere?
No.
Or it's just in BC?
It's just Vancouver Island and Pemberton.
That we know so far?
That we know so far. There hasn't been very much data collected on these species, which is what we're trying to do today. Yeah, so this is part of a mark recapture project where we're implanting an adult snake with a tag.
So the tag will come up on the reader.
Yeah, so I will be reading around any potential like good habitat. Even this this dead log here looks like a great spot for one. So I'll be like trying to see if I can get a reading, and then when I do, it'll pop up with a number. This could be it. Nobody home. When I started this job, I think it was 3 weeks before I actually saw one in the flesh. So it doesn't look good for us today.
Right, we might not find them today.
We might not find them, which is a huge part of this work. It sometimes will drive you crazy because you're like, do they even exist? They are a nocturnal and semi-fossorial, so they're burrowing underneath the ground. They're a pretty hard snake to find, and let alone study population dynamics.
Why do we do this kind of work? Why do you do this work?
So I do this work because this is my dream job, but this is also such important work. How are we able to protect the species that we know nothing about? If we're able to understand species a bit better and their habitat use, we're able to better make development projects and construction projects and things that are coming up that are going to happen anyway, but we're able to work together a little bit more. Like, it feels like they should be out. The other thing too is like, we had like a record drought last year. I'm not sure what that drought did to the population. Like, there could have been a lot of die-off. Their main threat is habitat loss. So the sun came out today and we were able to find our first sharp-tailed snake of the season. This is the female that we caught last year, and she is just gorgeous. I can't get over it. First thing we'll do is check to see if she's got a tag. Use it. This is like really exciting to see that she survived the winter and she survived the drought from last year, and she's ready to go have her first meal for the season. I've seen probably over 100, but every time you see another one, even if it's the same one, it's pretty exciting. And yeah, this is our first sharp-tailed snake of the season. It's still a species that is kind of the unloved and understudied, and I think deserves our attention.
Coming up, a Vancouver founder's words of wisdom. He died in 1998, just a year after Hong Kong was handed back to China. But his words still resonate the wisdom of his generation. The son of one of Vancouver's Chinese community founders and the recipient of the Order of Canada, Tong Louis, now in 1997 with stories from his youth growing up in Vancouver's Chinatown.
In the 1880s, Canada brought in 15,000 Chinese to build the CPR through the mountains of British Columbia. Their labor came cheap. They'd work for half a white man's wage. Conditions were appalling. Something like 1 in 10 died of malnutrition, exhaustion, accident, or murder. In 1885, when the railway was completed, thousands of Chinese hit the labor market, and the cry went up, "Send them back." That was impossible. A tax on newcomers to discourage them wasn't. The head tax certificate was what Chinese arrivals got to show they'd paid their $50, eventually $500, to immigrate. It was a prohibitive sum, but still they came.
Nobody invited you here. You came here on your own. You paid the head tax willingly or not, but you paid it for economic and for reasons, to escape the poverty in your homeland.
H.Y. Louis started as a farm laborer in 1896. Eventually, he rented a farm and sold produce in town. By the time Tong, his second child, was born, the business was thriving, but the hard work never stopped.
He had to bring the products of his farm, the produce, driving a team of horses, leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning, get to the market at 7 o'clock and dispose of it, get the cash, and then grab rice and everything, bring it back to the farm. It was a tough existence. But anyway, that was still considerably better than the existence he experienced in China.
The Chinese were only welcome to do the jobs the white middle class didn't want. But white laborers did want those jobs and were angry that the Chinese would do them for less money. But the Chinese had no way to bargain for higher wages. Unions denied them membership. In spite of the hostility, Chinatown kept growing. This was the Yellow Peril, the threat that hordes of Orientals, as they were called, would destroy the British way of life. Whites kept pressuring the government to stop all immigration from China. So in 1923, Ottawa passed an extraordinarily racist law known as the Chinese Exclusion Act, for that's what it did. What's more, everyone of Chinese ancestry, even those born here, had to register.
I have a picture of myself in those days, 9 years old even, taking a picture. That's what happened, you see. We had to have it, and we were treated like common criminals, you know.
But you were a Canadian.
Oh, of course.
Were you considered a citizen?
No, you can't vote. You have no franchise. So if you have no franchise, you don't really have any say.
But in 1941, Tong Louis tired of sharing the family's cramped Chinatown apartment above the company warehouse. When he and his bride bought a house in Vancouver's west side, whites were appalled.
And what do you know? The papers played it up. Oh, first page of the Vancouver Sun. They played it up. And of course, there was a lot of controversy. All the neighbors there didn't want me and so forth, you see, except my next door neighbor, who stood behind me all the way. But in those days, it was not acceptable. And many people in Chinatown said, Mr. Louis, I don't think you should really fight with him, you know. Just forget the whole thing. Give him the money back and forget about living there. I said, no, it's not me alone. It's my race of people. I'm looking for a bigger cause than just personal. It's your whole Chinese population are being disgraced. So I had to see this to the end.
The gamble had paid off. After the war in 1947, the Canadians of Chinese ancestry finally got the vote, and the Exclusion Act was replaced with a less racist one.
What is past is past, and the past is history, but we should never forget it.
At the end of this program, we like to tip our hats to our talented photojournalists on staff here at CBC Vancouver. They bring us images in their artful ways to give depth and deep character to the stories we cover. Here's a sampling from what they saw this past week. And that's all from our Vancouver this week. Bye for now.